right, we're going to go ahead and call to order the City of Wilmington's Board of Adjustments meeting for Thursday, August 14th, 2025. It is 1 o'clock. Before we get started, I'm going to read the Board of Adjustment introduction. Hearings before the Board of Adjustments are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions of the board are based on the record of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a concurrent vote of 4/5 of the members of the board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a simple majority. Evidence submitted to the board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals for the board's decisions are to Superior Court based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of filing of the board's order in the Planning Division. A hearing before the board is conducted in accordance with the rules of procedure. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witnesses. The chairperson recognizes those who want to testify or their attorneys for presentation of evidence during the hearing. To ensure that all testimony is properly recorded, please come forward to address the board, state your name, address, and speak clearly. Do you want to go ahead and swear in anyone?
All right, I'm going to ask staff, applicants, and members of the public that wish to speak today to stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next item will be the approval of the minutes from the July 17th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion for that or any corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Those pass. Our next item is old business regarding 1225 Great Oak Drive. There's been a request for a continuance for this item, and I would ask for, unless there's any additional information, do you?
No, the applicant has just requested additional time to provide information that would be helpful in the hearing.
Okay, great. And that continuance would be date specific to September 18th and would be at Skyline. Is that 929 North Front? All right. Is there anyone who would make a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue this item to September 18th meeting.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Our next item is new business. It's 302 Summer Rest Road, a variance to allow a bulkhead extension into the R20 Legacy District. And Catherine, you're presenting.
Thank you, Chairman Huffis. The subject property at 302 Summer Rest Road is a vacant lot in the R20 Legacy District with a pier and a dock on an adjoining lot within the Intercoastal Waterway. The lot currently contains a riprap revetment and a gazebo that was installed prior to annexation into the city limits, which was January of 1999. The majority of the dock and the pier facility is located below the mean high water line and is therefore outside the city's jurisdiction. The conservation resource applicable to the upland portion of the site is a coastal wetland, which requires a 75-foot setback from the edge of the resource to protect the city's ecologically important estuarine systems, preserve open space, retain flood storage capacity, and promote water quality. City Code Chapter 18, the Land Development Code, Section 18286, sets forth standards for water-dependent structures and criteria by which erosion control devices may be permitted within the conservation resource setback area. The applicant states that there's a documented erosion control problem, as demonstrated by CAMA's issuance of a permit for the installation of riprap in 1990. The proposed bulkhead would be installed landward of the existing riprap, thereby avoiding further encroachment into the resource setback. I've taken a few photos of the subject property. This is just to show that all the zoning around the property is also R20 Legacy. You can see the old building material that was used for the riprap revetment, and the little photo key to the upper right-hand corner shows you where the photo was taken from and the angle. This is just a little bit closer up, showing the riprap. The photo in the middle was taken from the subject property's pier. The two photos on the side were taken from the subject property, kind of looking over the fence at the neighbor's bulkhead. And this is the opposite neighboring property line, the southern property line, kind of looking at where the bulkhead would tie into the other side property line. So the request is to allow the bulkhead. They already have shoreline stabilization, so they'd be replacing the existing shoreline stabilization with a different type, which requires a variance from the Board of Adjustment. Rather than the standard hardship criteria, there's more specific criteria set forth in the code that you guys would need to consider as part of this variance request. And I know that that's a lot of words up there, but I just wanted to make sure that you had the information available. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have of city staff. The applicant and his agent is also present to answer any questions. And I would like to enter the case summary and all of the supporting materials, including this presentation, into the record.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Catherine? Okay.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and not having been there, but thank you for the photos. So if I heard you correctly, there needs to be a 75-foot setback from the conservation area? Is that the norm?
Yes, for a coastal wetland, that's the norm.
And then,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, but and in this instance, what the proposal is to, if I understood correctly, to put the bulkhead just behind where the current and rather dilapidated riprap exists? If
I would clarify that with the applicant. That was my understanding. There was some conversation on site this morning as to the exact location of the bulkhead, so I would let the applicant speak to that.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Catherine, is it correct that there's a bulkhead on one side but not on the other of this property? Like one neighboring property has existing bulkhead and the other one doesn't?
The bulkhead to the north is very clearly visible. I do not believe, I'd have to defer to the applicant on that too.
Okay.
To the south, it's less visible. There's certainly some sort of, let me go back to that photo.
It looks like there's some construction or something going on.
Yeah,
there.
it's very vegetated, so it was hard to see if there is something there. They've got a living shoreline out in front of any of the bulkhead or the shoreline stabilizations. So I'll let the applicant speak to.
Yeah, the reason I'm
the
asking is
material
because
used.
there's a qualification about not disturbing the neighboring properties. I forgot the exact wording on that previous page, and I was just curious if this bulkhead is going to tie into or abut existing bulkheads on either side, or are the neighbors okay with this?
It will be tying into definitely the bulkhead to the
On the
north,
north.
and then this this kind of wood
Yeah, whatever that is.
buried material. It'll tie into the corner of that. That extends all the way out to the waterway.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Would the applicant or the agent for the applicant like to speak?
Good afternoon, board members, Chairman. My name is Jason Dale. I'm a coastal permitting specialist here in Wilmington, and I specialize in facilitating coastal development permits for applicants. Mr. Beachman, who owns 302 Summer Rest, contacted me back in the early part of the spring to assist with this process. At the time, I was unfamiliar with the city's buffer requirements, the city setback requirements as it relates to the properties on Summer Rest Road. So I was procuring the portion of the CAMA permit for Mr. Beacham when it was discovered that we needed to satisfy the city of Wilmington before we proceeded with that project. So that's kind of what leads me here. I've got a little bit of experience with these types of commission meetings with variance requests. So if I say something that seems ignorant, I haven't never been before the City of Wilmington's Board of Adjustment before, so please correct me if I'm out of line or if I say something wrong. But I want to try to best describe the property and the situation as best possible for a favorable decision for Mr. Beacham. I would like to address two points that Catherine mentioned. Catherine did mention that this was a living shoreline that's located along the eastern edge of this property. It is a living shoreline, but not for the right reasons. It's the material that was used for this property when this riprap revetment was constructed was taken from an old restaurant site in the city of Wilmington. The property owner at the time was able to acquire some material. There's no specifications as to what type of material needed to be placed there at the time. So it's differing sizes of flat concrete rubble So it's not uniform, it's not typically what an applicant or a contractor would use for riprap type material. It's large pieces, medium-sized pieces, small pieces. So what has happened is at this location, there are voids that have been created through the erosion process. Upland erosion coming down from stormwater, not erosion from wave wash or wave attenuation. And through that process, it's hollowed out a lot of what used to be upland within this riprap revetment, and it's created a habitat for rodents. So that's that's one thing we're trying to eliminate here. I was last on site, and you can see the mice and the rats running in and out of the rock. So it is a living shoreline, but not for the right reasons that we want to call it a living shoreline. The second thing, too, that Ms. Thurston mentioned is that this wall would tie into the adjoining properties. That is not the case. So the state's rules concerning this type of development do not allow for an applicant or a property owner to extend beyond their property boundaries unless they have consent from the adjacent property owner. So anything that occurs on Mr. Beecham's property will be confined to Mr. Beecham's property. Neither property owner has given consent or has been included as an applicant on the CAMA permit or through this process to encroach and tie into or extend to their existing wall, particularly on the north side. That's the location where the existing seawall or bulkhead is located. So Ms. Thurston walked through a bit of the information. If you think it's prudent for us to go through the hardship criteria to kind of explain the rationale as to why a bulkhead is needed in this case, I'm happy to do that. Hopefully that material was provided to you and you've had a chance to go through it. If you feel like it warrants a second run at this point in time, I'm happy to go through it and reiterate what's been provided to you already. But in a nutshell, he's got a depression on the north side of the property. You can't see it in these photos, but the wall that's located on the neighboring property to the north has a belly in it as you get closer to the water's edge. And that belly is holding and trapping water. On the south side of the property, where you've got an adjoining property that does not have shoreline fortification, the runoff and rain material is coming down the driveway, the gravel driveway, and it's washing over the road. Again, the photos don't really show it in this situation, but it's eroded to the point where you can see some of the filter fabric that was originally installed behind the rock revetment. It's beginning to erode away, and that fabric material is becoming visible. So we're trying to, the intent was to stop that erosion so that the property owner doesn't continue to lose his shore frontage and his upland, because as you know, in this location, property is a premium, and the owner is trying to, prevent that recession of that shoreline. I would like to point out that the location of the wall, as is depicted on the CAMA permit and the way we applied for it both through the City of Wilmington's variance process and all through the state's coastal management permit, is that the new wall would approximate the landward side of the coastal wetland limit. And so the state has gone out, they've put coastal wetland flags in between the rocks along the shoreline, and it's at that location where the new bulkhead would be installed. Again, completely confined to the applicant's property, having no impact, no development beyond his property boundaries. Again, either out towards the water or laterally along the side property lines.
All right. Does anyone have questions for the applicant?
I have two questions. So the existing or the new proposed seawall will be on the landward side of the existing riprap, is that right?
I wouldn't say that it's going to be on the landward side. So it's not depicted and shown on the drawings, but that riprap revetment extends anywhere from 8 to probably 15 feet in length, from the upland part to the toe of that. And you've got vegetation that's prominent on one end at the toe of the wall, and on the other end it's up a lot higher. So again, the state representative went out, put the coastal wetland flags in the
Okay.
ground to denote where that alignment would fall. The riprap's going to come out. It would be removed by hand. We wouldn't be putting any type of mechanical equipment into the marsh to disrupt the marsh, to disrupt the open water body. The ecology that's there would remain unaltered. But
Except
that
for the rats.
majority of that riprap would be replaced, would be completely removed and then replaced with a vertical wall.
Okay. And if we grant this variance, it would be contingent on the CAMA permit issuance?
Yes, sir, which is
okay.
a copy of that's been provided to you. So CAMA has already reviewed this project. We submitted an application back in July for this.
Okay.
So they did approve it.
Okay.
So we do have an expiration date of 120 days beyond the date that we applied.
June 20, I think.
So the
June
current-
26.
Yeah, the current CAMA permit expires on November 9th, it looks like, of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Yes.
I have two questions, and one of them might actually be back to Catherine for clarification. So, if I saw the map correctly, this property is on the intercoastal waterway, is it not? Which in turn is connected at various points to the ocean. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir. It is a tidally influenced area.
Okay. And so maybe this is more for Catherine, but sir, if you've got some comments on this. So the encroachment that we're having to deal with, if any, is what? It's that the new barrier would be within 75 feet of what point in relation to the wetlands? I'm not entirely sure how that relates, sorry.
So as I understand it, the way the City of Wilmington's conservation area, New Hanover County and the City of Wilmington, is that that conservation area starts at the upper edge of the resource, whether that be normal high water, federal wetlands, or coastal wetlands.
It's coastal wetlands in this case, and it's just a little bit more landward from mean high water.
So the resource would start at that point. So we're asking for a variance for that bulkhead to be installed just beyond the edge of that resource. So foot number one of that 75-foot.
I see. Okay, well then, allow me to follow up with this question. Obviously, one wants to have as much property access as possible, but is there any reason why you couldn't put the bulkhead a bit further back, shall we say, a little bit more landward, to use my colleague's terminology?
So at the present time, Mr. Beecham does not have any house plans for this particular lot. However, the point is to utilize as much available space as possible. Again, considering the premiums on these lots that are waterfront, we're trying to maximize every square inch of that lot as possible.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm full of, this is a fascinating case, sorry, I've never seen one quite like this, so forgive me if to pick up on my colleague's question about the neighbors. So, understood, this bulkhead wouldn't be able to connect with the neighbors, whatever you want to call them, walls, rocks, whatever they've got going there, without their permission. But if the bulkhead is put in, would it not have an impact on your neighbor's land? In other words, it would protect this gentleman's property, but water being water, like money, it will flow where it can.
Sure.
And therefore perhaps undermine their land. If that is the case, what are we supposed to do?
And I may let Mr. Beecham...
We need you to, I'm sorry, to speak in the microphone. We're having trouble hearing you.
No problem at all. I may let Mr. Beecham discuss that with you because he has had multiple subsequent conversations with the adjacent landowner to address that very concern.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hearing us today. So I've spoken with Bob a few times. He's the landowner to the north who has the bulkhead in place now. He had concerns about our bulkhead being higher than his existing bulkhead, and I've assured him multiple times, I just want to be a good neighbor. I'm trying to make this great for all of us. My bulkhead will be at the same, for aesthetics, because it'll look better if the bulkheads are the same height anyway, and it just makes common sense that the bulkheads would be in line with each other. Now, we'd have to have permission from him to be able to tie in, but I'm sure that's the intent, because it would protect both properties from the runoff, because there's significant runoff, and we could maybe go back. Would you mind showing, Catherine, the picture there's a picture right beside the dock, and it showed some runoff that I think Catherine took this morning, that one right there. That's undermined, I mean, significantly, and that's the kind of thing, to your point, would probably happen if we didn't have, collaboration with the neighbors, right? So 100% plan on collaboration with the neighbor. In fact, we were texting back and forth this weekend, and I said, if you have any problems, questions, concerns, let's meet. His exact text back to me was, I have no problem with the bulkhead. He just wants to make sure the height is acceptable, and of course, an acceptable height is equal to his. I actually was meeting with the bulkhead builder this morning, just talking about things in general, and it's absolutely acceptable and typical for them to build this bulkhead where it would actually taper. Maybe the land is a little bit skewed as you look at it from the front. We could certainly taper it down as it meets that bulkhead, so they would meet evenly and be able to serve the purpose of not having undermining in between two revetments or whatever you want to call it. So the neighbor to the south is actually a family I've known for 30 years. I mean, it's just ironic that we bought a lot beside their house that they're currently building. He's decided, it's Harrison Crystal Peebles. I've spoke to him several times that they're not going to do a bulkhead. They have some kind of riprap, I believe, there. It's kind of overgrown, so it's hard to tell what they have on their side. But if you look at it's actually going to turn back. The plan for our bulkhead is once it gets to the edge of my property line, it turns back towards the street. Right, which in my opinion is going to keep the runoff on my side, not on their side. And obviously, if there's any runoff from anything we do, I have to be responsible for that. I can't damage someone else's property with something I might do on this property. So, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. That does help a lot. I'm gratified to hear that you've been talking with your neighbors.
Yeah.
I guess the only other question, maybe for the gentleman who's sort of an expert on these things, is okay. So we were on the intercoastal waterway. It's connected to the ocean. Climate change is going to make sea level rise and thermal expansion continue. So I guess this is also for the board. I mean, are we going to have to deal with these one by one, or is this going to be something that the city is going to wind up taking a look at? Maybe that's too broad a question, but because otherwise we're going to have one gentleman or one lady after the other come in and wanting their piece of property protected.
Well, it's my understanding.
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry, just for 1 second. I think that question we should defer to, because we're here to hear one case.
Yeah.
And we have to focus on that, and I'll let Whitney just
Each case has to stand on its own merits.
so I didn't want us to get too far down that way, but Whitney, am I right on that?
No, you're correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we're going to stay focused on our, just on this individual variance.
If I may just provide a bit of context that may help with your questions. The city used to not allow bulkheads within the conservation resource setback area at all, at least not any closer than 37.5 feet, which is the half.
Right.
They're required. I need to provide some context. And you'll see in your land development code references, it provides the conservation resource setback standards. People are allowed to encroach up to half of the distance, which for a 75-foot setback is going to be 37.5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So they could put the bulkhead there without coming before the Board of Adjustment for approval. But to put one any closer than that does require your approval. It used to just not be allowed at all, so people would have to come in and, meet the traditional hardship standards, which was fine, but we decided to try to make it easier and show you as the board what criteria you should be considering whenever you're looking at these. And so that's why we put in there, if there's already existing hardened shoreline, then it may be appropriate under certain circumstances. In this case, on this particular lot, there is already shoreline stabilization, and the proposed shoreline stabilization is going to go roughly where the existing is, so it's really just a different type of material. I think that in general, the city would be opposed to any kind of new hardened shoreline, but in this case, there is already riprap revetment there,
Right.
so this would just be a substitute material that may be more effective.
Yes, thank you very much, Catherine, and I thank the chair as well. I guess my question was because of point number 2 that in general we have to deal with, which is that hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be a basis for granting a variance. So I just want to make sure that what we were not dealing with here is something that is so general a problem that unfortunately might block the possibility of a variance. Thank you.
I'll wait till we go.
Yeah, we can, well, and we can have that conversation when we're going back and forth. Right now, I want to let them have their time to present, and then we'll open up for the public hearing. And then you also have the chance to talk again, but,
Right, I would say that the bulkhead proposed is going to be on the upland side. So it's not a bulkhead that you, like down, like on the riverfront here, where it's pushing water back from the waterway or whatever. It's dry. It's not pushing water. It's basically trying to keep the yard from eroding into the waterway, which
Absolutely.
which is fertilizer, all the stuff that's going to be coming through there if we don't do something about it. To me, that's one way of looking at it too.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Question.
Okay, yes, sir.
Just to round out the construction of the bulkheads, we're clear and the adjacent properties and all that stuff. I think I read somewhere in the materials that between the bulkhead and the existing land property, there would be a fill of some kind. Is that correct? Can you
Generally
describe?
speaking, yes, sir. So you've generally got a 15 to 20 foot area of disturbance back behind the wall.
Okay.
That it has to be accounted for when the contractor installs the wall to account for the dead men, the tieback system that keep the wall in place over time. So unlike traditional wood walls that you typically see on all these older properties, a lot of the new waterfront property owners have moved to using some type of vinyl, something that's going to last. It's more rigid, and you don't have to worry about decomposition, any type of leaching from that material into the adjacent water body over
Right.
time. So there is a specific area behind that wall that will be temporarily disturbed while they do install those
Sure.
dead men's, the tieback systems. But that would be backfilled and graded and made to look like, it will be part of the backyard. So it'll be seeded. It'll be either seeded or
So be
sodded.
backfilled with dirt and then seeded, or is it gravel? And, just what's the material that's used for the backfill is my question.
Typically, if a bulkhead is installed correctly, generally what will happen is the wall will go in, they'll put a layer of filter fabric behind the wall to ensure that none
Right.
of the material is going to leach out into the water. And then they backfill a certain portion of that with gravel, like a 57 stone down at the base of it. And then they push the remaining fill material back over top of that. So any material that will support that will likely be hauled in from a source like Highway 421 sand or, and that's the typical marine construction process to install these walls and install them properly. But any impacts would be temporary in nature again, and the remaining upland would be converted back to its natural state, pre-project state.
So on the south side, the neighbor to the south, it would be graded to their property, so it wouldn't be like a wall of
So in this
fill that-
case, there was a wing wall that was approved to run along the southern property line within Mr. Beecham's property boundaries.
okay.
That would contain that
Oh,
material.
okay, all right,
And
that's
it would
helpful.
run to a specific elevation. where
On
it-
his property to.
Right,
yeah.
where it met up with the land at a sufficient height to eliminate any off-site runoff.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to add one thing, just because right now, between me and the southern property, it's severely undermined. His property and my property, it's dipped down big time. So this would help both the properties.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Well, and you'll have, like I said, after we get through, there's no one here, but I still have to go procedure. But once we get through that, if you have more to add, you'll have a chance to do that also.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, yes, sir. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the evidentiary hearing. If anyone is present that would like to speak, please come forth. Being that there aren't any, I'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. Does the city have anything else to add relating to this matter?
Nothing really from the city, but I will note that the northern property owner, of course, they're not here for you all to cross-examine or ask,
questions of. But I will note that the email that's included in your packet from, let's see, it's from Robert Gibbons. That is the property owner to the north, and that email says, as I mentioned, I'm okay with their bulkhead in principle.
Noted. Thank you. Does the applicant, do you have anything else you want to add related to this? Okay, thank you. Then we'll go into talking and deliberating. Could we pull up the conditions for the revised findings? Thank you. All right.
And looking at this and going out to the property, the proposed bulkhead is really an improvement of the erosion control, and I think we need to confine our decision to what's presented and maybe not look at future climate change and possible water heights. I think that's beyond the scope of this board.
All right. Anybody else have comments or questions or discussion? If not, we can entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve this request as presented.
There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The variance is granted. Thank you. That ends what we have on our agenda today. Anything new from the city?
Our meeting next month will be at 929 North Front Street, the Skyline Center. So we look forward to seeing you all there in the new facility.
Free parking.
Yes, you can park in the visitor lot out front.
Do we get a real room, or are we back in a closet again this time?
It's going to be a real room.
Yeah.
We won't. It'll be very nice.
Assistant City Attorney Michael Satterfield will be advising the board going forward, so he will be the attorney for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
He's here today as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If there isn't anything else, I guess a motion to adjourn? All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.